Unseasonably warm temperatures bring alert day conditions for the potential for strong to severe thunderstorms in 24 hours to southern Wisconsin. We'll track those storms together tonight.
Plus, with the election a week away, political parties are making one final push to voters. This as Republicans stumping for former President Trump hold an event in Madison. And later, New Glarus Brewing Company expanding once again, how long their newest project is expected to take and what they're adding. It's all ahead on News 3 Now at 6. We'll get to those stories in just a bit, but first we're going to start with the weather tonight. Near record highs today. We'll continue into tomorrow. That does include some windy and stormy weather, possibly severe weather tomorrow. For the latest, let's check your first warn forecast. Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington. Alex?
Eric, you can feel that energy out here on the patio, those warm temperatures. Even humidity levels are up a bit out here right now, and it's this warmth and the increasing humidity levels combined with a strong storm system tomorrow evening that could bring alert day conditions to all of southern Wisconsin, especially for areas from Madison and points off towards the south and towards the west. This would be for Wednesday evening, right at about this time tomorrow night, carrying through the evening hours. This is what Future Track is showing for this time tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Wednesday. A line of thunderstorms stretching from Crawford County up to Juneau and Adams counties, and it will slowly work its way across southern Wisconsin Wednesday evening. Right now, it's beautiful out here, though, overall, with temperatures very warm across southern Wisconsin. Again, this is the ingredient for the potential for this severe weather, with damaging winds being the main threat with that line of thunderstorms Wednesday evening. We tied a record 82 just shortly after lunch, according to the National Weather Service, and this is going to go down in climate records. The last time we were this warm, way back 1937, and it's still balmy out here. 79 in Madison, 79 in Janesville, still holding on to 81 in the Wisconsin River Valley, 78 to the north up towards Camp Douglas, and 77 to the southwest in Platteville. Let's plan the rest of your beautiful evening. All we're going to do is mid-70s by the time you join Jacob at 10 o'clock. It's going to be a warm night tonight with record warm lows near 70 degrees. Eric said we're going to have a warm day on Wednesday, and we will, coming up in main weather. I'll show you how warm, and we'll track that line of thunderstorms using Future Track across the rest of southern Wisconsin.
Alex, thank you. 1 week from today is Election Day. Wisconsin remains one of the few states at the center of it all. Both parties are eyeing Dane County turnout on the path to the White House. That's why two of the Trump camp's most high-profile surrogates are in Madison tonight. Braden Ross is live at the Alliant Energy Center, where former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard are set to take the stage shortly. Braden, what's their message to Dane County voters?
Hey, Eric. Yeah, right now we're hearing from Senator Ron Johnson here inside the Alliant Energy Center arena. So I'm going to step out of the way and show you a little bit of what he's talking about. But any minute now, we'll see those two former Democrats take the stage here in deep blue Dane County. And even though Dane County will almost certainly go for Harris, they're here in an attempt to close the margins and turn out as much of Dane County for Trump as they can. Now, this is a strategy that the Trump campaign has deployed before here. Trump was the first GOP presidential candidate to campaign here in almost 3 decades when he stopped in Wanakee at the beginning of this month. But the endorsement from Kennedy was big for Trump. There are a lot of voters I talked to here that wish they could have elected Kennedy as their next president, but his endorsement and the promise of a position in the cabinet for Kennedy was enough to convince them to vote for Trump.
I don't need him to be president. I just need the issues to be solved. And he said in his speech when he dropped out of the campaign that this is the only way he felt he could get these things done, is by endorsing Trump and being part of a Trump administration. And I think it's going to be huge.
Now, some of the top issues I heard from voters here: keeping the U.S. out of foreign conflicts, protecting clean water and food standards, and of course, we also just learned that the United States Supreme Court rejected an attempt by Kennedy to remove his name from Wisconsin ballots, so that's also something we expect he might talk about here tonight. Now, you just saw Senator Ron Johnson leave the stage here tonight, so we're not sure if there'll be any other special guests here.
Ladies and gentlemen,
we'll see who's coming out.
Together for Republican candidate for United States Senator Eric Hovde.
Eric Hovde coming out right now. He is running for U.S. Senate here in Wisconsin. So we'll listen into what he says here. We'll stream this live on channel3000.com for you. And we're expecting to hear Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard speak any minute now, presumably probably after Eric Hovde here. But I'll send it back to you for now, Eric.
All right, Braden, thank you very much. And staying with the Republican ticket, former President Trump is scheduled to return to Wisconsin, scheduled to speak at the Resch Center up in Green Bay tomorrow. Former Packers quarterback quarterback Brett Favre will join him. And then on Friday, Trump will hold a rally at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. The former president expected to talk about inflation and his economic policy at both stops. Now over to the Democrats. Vice President Kamala Harris preparing for the final big address of her campaign. Tonight, she'll give a primetime speech describing her plans for the country, principally on the economy, the top issue for voters. Tomorrow, the vice president will be on the UW-Madison campus, joined by several musicians for the campaign's Get Out the Vote concert and rally series. The vice president will also be back in Wisconsin on Friday, though it is not known exactly where she'll be. And then on Thursday, former President Bill Clinton will be in the Fox Valley and Milwaukee on behalf of the Harris-Walz ticket. Clinton is expected to tout Harris's agenda while criticizing Project 2025. Next at 6, you've heard a lot about the Madison School District referendum next week, but it's far from being the only school district in the area going to property owners for funding. Armand Rahman takes us to Rock County for what the Janesville School District is asking residents to vote for on Election Day.
This year, nearly half of Wisconsin school districts have addressed funding needs with a referendum to residents, and that includes the school district of Janesville, who has 2 referendum questions on the ballot this November 5th.
If the money's not there any other way, then the referendum is the way to go.
Many voters like Nancy Sonka tell me they've already voted yes, regardless of cost.
The referendum is about dollars and cents and the budget, but it's also about an investment in our kids and our future.
The capital referendum is an extra $20.25 a month in property taxes for the average home, to be precise, for a total revenue cap of $151 million to address infrastructure needs at the district's 20 facilities, most of which are around 63 years old.
Really looking at upgrading our plumbing, electrical, heating, very specifically in our elementary, middle, and high schools, special education upgrades.
The district would also continue enhancing building security
To provide additional stops and barriers for either emergencies, medical emergencies, and other areas that we can lock down portions of our buildings rather than just the front.
If voters don't vote yes on that question, Holzman says the maintenance won't go away.
We know that inflationary costs with when we're looking at projects continue to rise.
The other question doesn't call for any estimated property tax increase. It would continue a $14.5 million operational referendum for another 2 school years for wages, professional development, and keeping class sizes small for transitional grades.
We need to pay it forward because somebody paid for my kids when they were going through to get a good education here. So I feel like we should do the same thing for the kids that are here today.
That was Armand Rahman reporting. New Glarus Brewing Company expanding once again, embarking on a 2-year project to add to the facilities there. News 3 Now's Kyle Pozorski has the details.
Right here is where the new factory expansion is going to be going. It's going to take about 2 years to make. And yes, they're going to make a lot more beer here, as well as welcoming in more guests to southern Wisconsin. It was as if the entire town showed up Tuesday for a groundbreaking ceremony to mark the start of the new chapter for the company, now ingrained in Wisconsin's character.
People are really sweet to us and have embraced us since the beginning.
What will be a 65,000 square foot expansion will house facilities for brewing, distillery, and extra hospitality. The company's architect and daughter of founders Dan and Deb Carey spoke with us about the legacy they've built and hope to continue with this project.
It's a history. I think it's become part of the community. They've made sure that they've done things with a lot of heart, with a lot of intention. I think we've become part of the fabric of Wisconsin, and they've created something really special that I think will stand the test of time.
The new building will be 4 stories tall, complete with a grass roof, along with a geothermal heating and cooling system. The project's general contractor, Keller Inc., expect work to wrap up in fall of 2026. In New Glarus, Kyle Pozorski, News 3 Now.
And still ahead at 6, a look at some of the more unique ways that politicians are reaching out to voters. But first, there's a new medical center opening for cancer patients, the resources it has to offer, and what providers are focusing on. Stay with us.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6, brought to you by Gruber Law Offices.
I thought with everything going on, we could all use a little smile break. So this one is on Gruber Law Offices. You're welcome.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, and I approve this message.
Eric Hovde owns a $3 billion California bank. That's right, he owns it.
And a $7 million mansion on the beach.
Eric Hovde proposed $4 trillion in new tax breaks for rich guys just like him.
And to pay for it, Hovde would cut Social Security by 28%.
Slash Medicare 25%.
And veterans benefits 40%.
Outrageous. Now we know what's wrong with Eric Hovde. This guy is not for us.
Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing? Their weakness invited wars, welfare for illegals, while Americans struggle. Now Kamala wants higher taxes on top of higher prices. We can't afford 4 more years of Kamala.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. Why hasn't she done it?
4 years, radical Kamala Harris created the border crisis. Thousands of accused murderers, rapists, even terrorists pour in. Each crime they commit makes American victims. Innocent victims of Kamala's open border agenda. They were bludgeoned, raped, strangled, stabbed, shot, and murdered. Kamala created the border crisis. She won't fix it now. Make America Great Again, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The problem with Todd Novak? He voted with his extreme party leaders 100% of the time, like voting against lower prescription prices. And Todd Novak authored the law to ban abortion in Wisconsin, with no exceptions for rape and incest. Todd Novak is with the extremists 100%, and he's hurting Wisconsin. Elizabeth Grabe will defend abortion rights, get more police funding, and bring down costs. Elizabeth Grabe for Assembly.
Rebecca Cook believes our parents and grandparents should be able to age with dignity. In Congress, she'll vote to strengthen Social Security and Medicare by repealing the tax on benefits, lowering the eligibility age for Medicare, and allowing Medicare to negotiate lower drug costs so our seniors get the prescription drugs they need at prices they can afford. Rebecca Cook, a homegrown Wisconsinite who fights for what's right. Project 218 is responsible for the content of this ad.
A growing number of immigrants are chasing the American dream north to Wisconsin. How are our communities adjusting? I'm in Whitewater digging into the realities and the rewards. 3 for the People, Wednesday at 10.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
Welcome back. The new East Park Medical Center is gradually opening for patients who need cancer care. On Monday, providers welcomed the first patients to the new Cancer Care Center, which is the largest medical facility to be completed in the entire U.S. this calendar year. Now, the goal of the new center is to give specialized care for people who have cancer by offering resources like infusion care, upright proton therapy, and side effect support. UW Health Medical Director Lee Wilkie tells us providers are focused on oncology, along with a special interest in women's health.
There is an immense need to improve women's health. That includes women's pelvic wellness, perimenopausal needs, premenopausal needs, and ensuring that each of their needs are met through a wide variety of specialties.
UW Health Director also says no cancer nor patient is the same, that providers aim to cater their care to the unique needs of the patients. Some cancer services have already begun. Other services will kick off November 11th and 18th. Still ahead, you've seen political ads and signs outside, online, but what about in video games? When we come back, a look at some of the new tactics and places political campaigns are turning as they try to reach younger voters. Plus, the rain returns this other Wisconsin tomorrow. Alex reveals how much we can expect after a short break.
The other side is lying to scare you. Truth is, Joan Ballweg is a champion for women's health care. She fought hard to expand healthcare access for postpartum moms and supports access for IVF and birth control. We're voting for Joan Ballweg because she votes for women like us.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, and I approve this message.
Eric Hovde owns a $3 billion California bank. That's right, he owns it.
And a $7 million mansion on the beach.
Eric Hovde proposed $4 trillion in new tax breaks for rich guys just like him.
And to pay for it, Hovde would cut Social Security by 28%.
Slash Medicare 25%.
And veterans benefits 40%.
Outrageous. Now we know what's wrong with Eric Hovde. This guy is not for us.
I'm a steel worker. I grew up right here on the little family farm. Trump was here campaigning with Elon Musk. Now, there's a prime example of who he keeps close. Donald Trump cares about his billionaire friends. He's just going to turn around and give them more tax breaks. But Kamala Harris is fighting for the working class. She'll make billionaires pay their fair share. That way, working people get a fair shot. Elon Musk is voting for his money, and I'm voting for mine. And I'm voting for Kamala Harris.
FFPAC is responsible for the content of this ad.
Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing? Their weakness invited wars, welfare for illegals, while Americans struggle. Now Kamala wants higher taxes on top of higher prices. We can't afford 4 more years of Kamala.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
The problem with Todd Novak? He voted with his extreme party leaders 100% of the time, like voting against lower prescription prices. And Todd Novak authored the law to ban abortion in Wisconsin, with no exceptions for rape and incest. Todd Novak is with the extremists 100%, and he's hurting Wisconsin. Elizabeth Grabe will defend abortion rights, get more police funding, and bring down costs. Elizabeth Grabe for Assembly.
Manufacturers selling baby food with high levels of toxic heavy metals.
Foods and cereals marketed to children contain a weed-killing chemical that some health authorities link to cancer.
Exposed to chemicals and additives that have been banned in other countries.
Half the tap water contains forever chemicals.
Enough is enough. President Trump and I are going to stop the mass poisoning of American children. We're going to make America healthy again.
Maha Alliance is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When I was 27, I was diagnosed with MS. That's life-altering news. I had to prioritize my health and start taking medication. Back then, these cost $6,000 a year. Now the generics cost 5 times that. Senator Baldwin claims she's fighting to lower drug prices, but she's taking millions from Big Pharma and works for them. I'm not taking their money. I'm Eric Hovde, and I approve this message. I'll fight the corruption and lower drug prices because I've lived it.
Sarah Kieski, she supports lifting revenue limits, allowing property tax rates to skyrocket unchecked. Kieski's backers want to ban natural gas to heat our homes, driving utility bills through the roof. That's Kieski's record, expensive and extreme.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
With just 7 days out from Election Day, both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump's campaigns are exhausting every option to try and earn votes. Our Jalen Banks joins us now from the News Center on how they're trying to attract young voters. Jalen?
Eric, for years, we've experienced the door knocking, the signs in yards. In the past few election cycles, we've seen the use of social media to try to earn and turn out voters. But what if I told you our presidential candidates could be using one of these to try to earn votes of young people? We've seen these.
The border is secure.
And these when campaigns are trying to earn our votes. Recently, we've seen a new tactic. Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump appearing on podcast, a medium with a high percentage of young people.
People thinking about the election a lot more than in past years, because I think young people are terrible at voting. So I think it's probably getting a lot more people out to the polls.
It's more accessible. It feels like it's just more catered towards us because our vote does matter.
According to the Pew Research Center, 48% of podcast listeners ages 18 to 29 listen to a podcast a few times a week.
I think it's definitely made their campaigns more visible to especially like people our age. I do think it's like a smart tactic.
And just this week, the Harris campaign is taking a new approach, reaching voters through video games, as the campaign has now been seen on one of the most popular games in the world, Fortnite.
I do know a lot of people that play games, especially Fortnite, has a big population of people that play it. So I can definitely see it actually being like a really good way to market and kind of inform people about the different candidates.
And some feel these efforts validate the young voter's voice.
I think the student vote in Madison is insanely important. Almost in any college town, it's going to be really important.
Now, earlier in the election cycle, both campaigns shared with News 3 that there would be an increased effort in reaching voters through social media as well. Now, with video games and podcasts, it'll be interesting to see if come Election Day, it'll get candidates over the top.
Jalen, thank you. Stormy conditions tomorrow after these warm temps. Here's Alex with a complete outlook in our first warn forecast.
Eric, these warm temperatures, that's fuel for thunderstorms, and boy, have the temperatures been warm. Look at our temperatures today. We'll get more on alert day conditions here. This is our trend across southern Wisconsin. We started off well into the 60s, very likely having a record warm low this morning. The National Weather Service will officially call that, if we don't get cooler, than approximately 65 degrees before midnight. And I don't think it's going to happen. Then we tied a record high temperature today right around noon at 82 degrees, and our temperatures out there still very mild as we plan the rest of the evening. I like to do my walk after 6 o'clock, and it's going to be in the 70s. You'll join Jacob tonight as clouds are on the increase and still in the mid 70s. And this is the fuel for the potential for a couple of severe thunderstorms as we go into Wednesday evening, especially from Camp Douglas, the Dells, Madison, and Janesville, and points off towards the southwest. Kelly will actually be here tomorrow morning. Savannah's going to work dayside, and we'll potentially see this marginal risk move a bit. So you'll want to tune in tomorrow morning for the latest on that potential update. Regardless of the update, the primary threats with this line of thunderstorms we're expecting Wednesday night is going to be damaging winds, although heavy rainfall not out of the question, could have a little bit of hail, and we can't rule out a couple of quick spin-up tornadoes on some of the leading edges of these lines of thunderstorms that will be moving through the area, especially Madison and areas west. That's why we're calling alert day conditions, to emphasize that it could be a very stormy evening, and this isn't the time of year that most folks would be thinking about severe weather. Dodgeville camera is moving here. As you can see, very windy conditions. It's these strong south to southwest winds that are bringing in the warm and more moist or humid air. Also, the clouds are starting to be on the increase. Let's track those temperatures tomorrow. The fuel for these, part of the fuel, I should say, for these showers and thunderstorms, as warm as 68. If it's only 68 to start off the day, we'll very likely have record warm low temperatures again across all of southern Wisconsin and breaking records. Highs getting into the upper 70s from Madison and points south and east to the north and west. Look at the stark contrast north and west of La Crosse. That's that cold front making its way towards the south and east. And by 6 o'clock tomorrow night, thunderstorms from Crawford County up to Juneau and Adams County is slowly working its way towards the south and east, towards the Madison area, Platteville, Mineral Point, the Dells up towards Columbia County by the time we get to 10 o'clock. And then across the rest of southern Wisconsin should be out of here by the time we get into the early morning hours of Halloween. One more quick line of showers, maybe a thunderstorm right around 8 o'clock Thursday morning. That's the cold front coming through, and trick-or-treaters should be ready for windy conditions and falling temperatures. Best chances for heavy rain, that's north and west of Madison. You could get 1 to 2 inches, quarter to half inch from Madison and points to the south and towards the east. And we got a lot more water in the forecast by the end of the weekend. Going into early next week, a very wet weather pattern will be setting up across southern Wisconsin.
And coming up in sports, Layla Edwards joined the 100-point club against Bemidji State. What the Badger forward said about reaching that milestone. That's next on News 3 Now.
News 3 Now First Warn Weather is brought to you by Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor.
Discover a shopping and design experience as comfortable as the furniture. Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor. Schedule your free design consultation today.
So let's get one thing straight. When Donald Trump talks about cutting Social Security and Medicare, it's like spitting in the face of America's seniors. We paid into these programs for our entire careers, and he would just cut them? Why? He wants to give another tax cut to the super rich, which they don't need. I know that Kamala Harris will protect our Social Security because she understands why it's so important for so many of us.
FFPAC is responsible for the content of this ad.
Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing? Their weakness invited wars, welfare for illegals, while Americans struggle. Now Kamala wants higher taxes on top of higher prices. We can't afford 4 more years of Kamala.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Growing up here in southeast Wisconsin, hard work and getting things done are in Brian Stiles' DNA. It's why Stiles is recognized as a problem solver in Congress. He's fighting for Wisconsin families every day, combating high prices at the grocery store and gas pump. And Brian Stiles is protecting Social Security and Medicare because you've earned it. Brian Stiles, getting it done for southeast Wisconsin. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this ad.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, and I approve this message.
I am a strong believer in pro-life. I am totally opposed to abortion.
Eric Hovde supports abortion bans. Republican extremists in the Senate already want to ban abortion nationwide. No exceptions for rape or incest. They want more anti-abortion judges. And to even make birth control and IVF illegal.
I am totally opposed to abortion.
We can't trust Eric Hovde.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. Why hasn't she done it?
For years, radical Kamala Harris created the border crisis. Thousands of accused murderers, rapists, even terrorists pour in. Each crime they commit makes American victims. Innocent victims of Kamala's open border agenda. They were bludgeoned, raped, strangled, stabbed, shot, and murdered. Kamala created the border crisis. She won't fix it now. Make America Great Again, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Wisconsin's women's hockey is off to an undefeated start, and a big part of their success this season has been the play of Layla Edwards. In 10 games, she scored 10 goals, a team high, while also tallying 8 assists. And in last week's series against Bemidji State, Edwards became the 33rd player in program history to reach the 100-point club, a milestone she credits to her teammates.
Just looking down the bench, like, I've been alongside some really good players that have made this possible. So, yeah, just super thankful. It's an individual thing. It doesn't mean too much to me, but I think it's really cool. And it shows, like I said, I'm playing with some of the best players in North America.
Her ceiling is whatever she wants it to be. And, she's continued to work. She's going to get more opportunities. And so I think her confidence is in good space.
Halfway through their Big Ten schedule, Wisconsin sits 9-1 in conference, play one game behind Nebraska, who comes to the Fieldhouse on Friday night. The Badgers have had the Huskers' number lately. They've won 11 of the last 12 meetings, including the national championship game in 2021. This year's meeting doesn't have that level of hype yet, but it will go a long way to deciding who wins a Big Ten championship when it's all said and done.
Trying to win a Big Ten title, and you certainly don't want to fall 2 games behind with 9 to go. That's going to be pretty hairy thing to come back from. And so, not only will we learn a little bit more about ourselves, but you're playing one of the top teams in the country, and the Big Ten title goes through them.
Going to be a whiteout at the Fieldhouse on Friday.
Always a big one. Let's go to Alex. Final check of the forecast.
Busy weather on Wednesday. Alert day conditions for the potential for severe thunderstorms Wednesday evening. Trick-or-treaters will be, the Halloween forecast is looking pretty good by the evening hours. So that's good news.
It is. Thanks for joining us, folks. Have a great evening.